Hello, I'm Sierra from Watches with a Woman,
And I'm Andrew from Quartz Crisis.
and we're here to talk about the differences between modern and vintage watches and why I'm supporting modern watches in my collection.
And I like vintage watches much more, and I'm gonna try to convince Sierra that she's wrong.
We'll see how that goes.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have this, I made this list, and Sierra has a much larger list.
I'm winning so far.
Okay, so my first point is that vintage watches are cheaper. Right, so I want, like I want to make some example. Like, for example, let's take Grand Seiko. Right? So they kind of like Rolex prices, right? Do you agree? Like
Yes,
the new ones.
very
Right?
similar.
So if you get them used, then it's gonna be a little less, but still gonna be like it's gonna be a lot, right?
Mhm.
But now if you buy vintage Grand Seiko, you're pretty much looking like not every single model, but a lot of them go for less than $1,000,
Right.
this is like significant difference.
And that's a great watch for that
Yeah,
price.
this is a very big difference. Or like that Hamilton W10,
Mhm.
they reissued they reissued a military watch recently. So the new price is $900. And if you wanna go, so I actually made a video. So if you wanna go on eBay and find the original military watch with the history and everything, is like $400. That's
Yes,
like
that
quite
is
quite a
very
difference.
significant.
So yeah, what do you want to tell
I mean,
about this?
That is a fair point for a lot of
Convinced.
vintage watches. So I actually have a couple of vintage inspired watches, such
Yeah.
as my Monaco. I also have a modern Ploprof, Omega Ploprof.
Yeah.
And those are two cases where
Those are special.
those are special cases where the vintage watch is actually very expensive. So buying the modern alternative, you get the reliability and the durability with it, as well as a good price point, and that's going to last you.
Yeah. But that's more kind of like an exception. So there is also like Rolexes, because everybody wants to get a Rolex, right?
Yes, that's true.
But most watches, that's more an exception than the rule.
Mhm.
Most, like if you take these like Seiko reissues, they also like reissues like $6,000, but the vintage goes for like 1,000,
Right.
and so on. So it's usually a rule is that the new watch costs like this. You get it used just a little bit more, but vintage is like way like in the bottom.
And usually when I do buy modern watches, except in special cases, I do get that used, because when you get the initial hit, especially at some brands like IWC, I don't own an IWC yet, but they drop significantly on the secondary market, and so you can get a well-priced watch. There are vintage watches that are maybe better priced, but also when you factor in just the peace of mind when you buy this watch, how long it's going to be.
So that's your point number 2. Okay, let's go. Okay, so
modern watches are also really, they can be really reliable. You can find parts for them, service them less. Some, if you're getting them new, will have the warranty. So that's something that you can factor in when you're buying watches.
So that's kind of thing that's a pain with vintage. That's kind of what you need to account for. So you're buying vintage watch, you probably would need to service it. Like if not immediately, you need to account the service price into your calculations.
Right.
But also there is this. Do I want to wear it in the rain? Can I trust my watchmaker that it's actually waterproof and kind of stuff like that. So there is some kind of level of pain. Yeah, but that's but you are getting like your initial expenses much lower. So usually you can add the price of service, and it's still gonna be like so much lower.
How do you find the people to service your vintage watches?
That's another pain. Yes. Oh, hold on. Okay, you're gonna come on. That's pain. Okay, so so my point number 2, right?
Yes.
Is that with vintage watches you have more variety and they're more interesting. So if you are buying a modern watch, that you are pretty much locked into this time period, which is kind of like modern time period, right? Like the last 5-10 years. So and all the like if you think there are different brands, there are different like watches, there are different styles, but they are all kind of, I know, like if you take modern cars, they are all kind of the same, right? If you take modern buildings, they are all kind of like the same glass buildings and stuff. But if you take all the history since like mankind, I know, since not mankind, they were wristwatches started in early 1900s.
Right. Which watch are you
So
wearing?
yeah, so this one is 1936 Hamilton Caster, solid gold.
That is a very beautiful watch.
I know. Let me show. Kind of like so. Like nobody's making these like Art Deco watches anymore, right? So even if you would want to buy something like that, like you can't.
You should.
Right? But there are so many, like so much variety, so many styles, so many looks, like in vintage, just because you are getting into these like periods of history.
Yeah, I mean, that's very fair point if you're wanting a specific style that's been in the past. I think that people are really experimenting with watch styles now. They are getting some inspiration from vintage watches, so that's a big trend. But also, like, you can find really peculiar dial shades or textures, which you can in vintage watches as well, but they're playing more with that. And I think that Seiko's done some really cool things with Seiko like dial colors and textures recently, and different case shapes.
Every
so
brand is kind of like
you can
but it's
play around.
fake. So that's the thing. So they are trying to make something which used to be vintage, but they're trying to make it new, and it's fake. They are doing this like fake loom, fake all this like patina.
There is a point where the patina on the lip, the fake patina is a little bit too much.
But they do it like with the dial. Like they issued the Ben Klein Longines. They put these like dots, like that is one show. Yeah,
to give that vintage look. I mean, you can find some fun modern watches that aren't vintage inspired, that they're just having fun with. I think the salmon dial trend is really neat. So you can get some fun things out there.
And then another thing in terms of variety, so if you have small wrist, then so the modern trend is like everybody likes big watches like this one. Like this.
I have the reissue Monaco.
Yes, it's beautiful watch. Like this is exceptional. It's like I wouldn't think it would work like on my, for example, like 6.25-inch wrist.
I have a 6-inch wrist. So.
Yeah, but on 6-inch wrist it works. But like usually these watches, they are like this like hockey puck and.
I do have a Flowpro, so maybe not.
That one I haven't tried. Yeah, I haven't tried that one.
Yes. So you can, you have to be wary. Lug to lug, if it's hanging off your wrist, I think that you're right. A lot of modern watches do take it a little bit too far. Some Hublots are a little bit extreme. Some Bell & Rosses maybe not fit my wrist, but you can play around, try things on, find a big watch that works.
But the thing is that this is pretty recent trend. So there were big watches, I think, in like 70s, 80s. There was a short period of time. After that, it kind of died down, and small watches came back. And after that, recently, in like 2000s, there's like big watches appeared again. But if you have small wrist, then you want a lot of variety. Like you're not gonna find a lot. Like there is Black Bay 36, it's a small watch, right? But usually you need to go vintage.
I don't know. I don't have experience finding somebody to service a vintage watch, so I'm not sure how you do that.
I mean, it's a pain, yes.
Yeah.
I know. It's kind of just a good argument.
Yeah, I think
it is a pain.
Yeah. And then the other thing with vintage watches is finding authentic pieces.
Hold on. Okay. Let's go.
So if you're buying vintage watches, a lot of them won't have papers with them. Or you'll have to find special cases.
That's not good. So you basically, that's kind of like another pain with. So like if you buy a new watch like this one, for example, right? This is you got it from Tag, made by Tag, all parts authentic, everything. Right? But if I would want to find vintage Monaco, like Heuer Monaco, then I pretty much need to become an expert in these vintage Heuer Monacos. I need to know how to spot a repainted dial, and specifically in that model that I want to buy, right? Because like Heuer Monaco is one thing, but for example, vintage Grand Seiko is another thing, or like
both watch brands and specific models.
So you need to be kind of like narrow. a narrow specialist in that specific brand. Yeah, you need to know like everything, like pushers, like inside of the movement. Yeah, because.
You want to make sure you're getting what you need
to
get.
Yeah. And the weird thing is that even if the watch is cheap, like some brands, they have a lot of fakes. Like for example, Soviet watches, they have like bunch of fakes, which is like why this doesn't make sense to fake it, but there are, right. There are some like totally fake watches, like all these like from India, and not all of them, but
Mumbai special.
Mumbai special, yeah. So, but in this, so this is a pain, but it's also kind of there is element of fun that you are like learning about the brand, you are researching it, you are like you are. Like you are becoming, but you
right.
know more about.
When you get the watch, you understand the watch.
Yeah. So with vintage watches, it becomes more. If you're doing it right, like you can do it wrong, and like we're not gonna talk about. But if you are doing it right. So like first you decide that okay, you're interested in that brand or you're interested in that watch. You do like some research. You're trying to educate yourself, and it's kind of this. Education becomes fun, you know. So it's not
part hobby, part treasure hunt.
Yeah, treasure hunt. So it's kind of there is a lot of fun in it, but
I guess if you know other people in the watch community, you can find people who are experts, friends who know more about a specific watch, and that is a good way to.
Yeah, but I would say. Instead of asking them for opinion, you should learn from them.
So, that's a good point.
Because like you don't want somebody to make decisions for you because like they're gonna spend like 5 minutes looking at something. But you're gonna spend like 5 months looking at those Grand Seikos. Yeah. So that's So on this one. Now in terms of my next point, right? So I like that vintage watches, they have history, they tell a story. So like if you're buying a modern watch, that's like even like this one, right? If I would just buy this one, just a blank watch, it has like nothing, right?
Yes.
Maybe it like this is the issue of the famous watch. Maybe it talks about that famous watch, but it's not a famous watch yet, right? But when you buy something like this, immediately talks about like I don't know the heyday of American watchmaking. But this is like
and that watch in specific didn't like a jazz musician own that watch?
No, not this one.
Okay, so a different watch.
Yeah,
so I guess you have so many.
But even that one, yeah. So like that Movado, the jazz musician. So there are actually two parts. One part is that person who owned it. Usually there are interesting stories. Just because there is a person who owned it, and like maybe it was your grandpa, maybe he was a jazz musician or anything like that, right? Another one is that watch tells about the period of history. So, for example, that Movado came from times when Movado was actually like a super cool brand. It was kind of like an Omega Rolex on that level. It has engine turned die. So I can tell stories like pick any watch, like if it's authentic from eBay, and there's already all the stories that are coming, you know. But with modern watches, you get nothing.
Right. Yeah, that's a point that I want to come up with something to say. I mean, you can build your own story with your watches, but that is
but you need to build really it, you know, like
you need to build it.
And
I'm a big history buff, so that is something I think I will own a vintage watch at one point. It'll be my special, like how you have the Tudor.
After today,
yes. Like how you have the Tudor as your modern watch. So
no.
Yes,
I do. Yeah, you can see my state of the collection. Yes.
So I mean, I'll have my vintage piece in there too.
Yeah.
But I'll have to learn.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Okay, so next one is kind of I think important. So vintage watches hold value. So now, so I kind of need to explain a little bit. Right? So let's say you buy a modern watch, right? You pay the retail price, right? Like if that watch is, let's say, like 6 months old, so you buy it from somebody, then there is a hit, right? Because now it's not a modern watch; it's a used watch, right?
It's like a car. You drive it off the lot, instant price cut.
Now, if I buy this 6 months watch from you, but like 2 years later. Right, it's not 6 months watch anymore. Now it's 2.5 years watch. Right, probably warranty expired. Probably, so it's gonna be another hit. and so on, right? But now, like if you're looking at vintage watches, so this one is 80-year-old watch, right?
Wow.
Let's I know if I did math.
That aged well.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I didn't do math right.
You did do math right.
Maybe I didn't do math. But it's about 8 years old watch, right? So let's say I hold it like for these like 2 years, right? And I sell it. So let's say I bought it for X, 8-year-old watch, and I'm gonna sell it 82-year-old watch. Right? Like, what do you think the price difference will be between 80 and 82? Like, it's the same thing. Right? There is even probability that it might even increase, but we're not gonna hope for increase in value. But at least like that, it kind of should hold value, right? So it kind of makes sense. And for watch collecting, it's a really big thing. Because we like swap watches often, we like something, after we like a month later we hate it, we want to try something else. So this like buying and selling is very
when I talk to people about the watch hobby, I'm always like, the watch isn't how much you pay for the watch, it is how much it cost you to own it when you sell the watch. So I mean, you will take a hit and there is upfront capital, but it is, so that is a fair point with vintage watches, that you do not take as big of a hit when you sell that watch. You've had your fun for less.
So theoretically, you don't even get any hit, right? Because like it's already very old.
Maybe your service, the money you spent on service.
So service, yeah. So the servicing bill will be higher because they probably gonna break more often than modern watches. That they need more attention. But in terms of the value of the watch, then you shouldn't.
Yeah.
It might even increase. Like.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact age of this watch. It's over 5 years old. I've sent it in once for service.
Oh, so you actually serviced it already?
Yeah. So
I
mean, you have to do
so even modern. Oh, I'm surprised. Really?
Yeah, I wanted.
You had to service it already.
There were the seconds hand on the chronograph was.
Oh, I didn't reset.
It was reset, but it wouldn't reset to new.
Oh, I see.
12.
So they didn't do the full service. They just fixed this problem.
I asked them to do
a full service.
Yeah, since I had to send it in anyway.
It's probably smart.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So even modern watches need that.
Take care of your watches, friends.
Yeah, but what can they do? Actually, that's a big benefit of battery watches. I mean, proper. Let's say quartz watches, not battery watches. They usually just like swap battery and that's it. But with there are some very cool battery vintage watches. So my last one is it's mostly related because the price of vintage watches is so much lower, and things like if you get them in precious gold watch, right? If you get them in precious metals or you have some complications. Like for example, James bought the jump hour from me.
Yes, that was a beautiful watch.
Beautiful watch made by like really cool. I mean, at that time, Caravel was a very solid brand, so like a fashion brand now. Made by a cool brand, cool movement, jump hour.
I saw your video on it. It's really neat.
Yeah, see my video by the way. Whooping $100.
Yep.
So like try to buy a jump hour watch like today.
Yeah,
right?
that's
It's
not
gonna be like $5,000 or something like Or try to buy like gold watch, right? So like even I don't know who makes gold. Who makes
a solid gold watch?
The cheapest gold watches, I don't know.
I know that. I mean, you can get some gold plated.
No, not plated. Plated is different, but like solid gold.
I don't.
It's gonna be like many thousands. I can't even imagine. But like these go pre-war solid gold Hamiltons. If you pay over $500, you overpaid. So like unless it's some like super rare, like most of them, if you pay over 500, you definitely overpay. Hopefully the prices will increase, but this is like today's prices at that level. Or if you take so Hamilton is actually like collectible brand, but if you take something like Elgin or these like lesser known brands, they pretty much go for the value of the melt. It's just quite amazing.
Yeah, that is. You get the history, the gold watch, everything.
Yeah. You will have to store this. But so what? So it's amazing. It's cool.
It is really neat, and that strap is beautiful with that gold. By the way.
Again, vintage strap. Vintage, but not. It's yeah. The strap is not from 30s. The strap is probably was made like in 70s or 60s.
Oh, that's really neat.
But yeah, pigskin, vintage strap, vintage watch, amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
Are you convinced?
You have convinced. I will need a vintage watch in my collection. Yes. I'll do the research.
Do the research.
I'll just pay to service it, have some fun.
But yeah, vintage watch is fun. This is awesome.
Well, you've convinced me. You have your modern watch. I guess I need my vintage watch now too.
Yeah, so I made a video of why you need at least one modern watch in your vintage collection, and there is naked Archie luxury there. You should watch that video. Maybe you can click somewhere here or here. I don't know if you add the link. Okay, so it was fun.
It was great. Thank you all for joining us for this conversation. I hope that you found it as useful as I did. So thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. So if you want, you should. You should visit Sierra's channel, Watches with the Woman. I don't remember. Hold on. Where do these links appear? Here or here? I think here. Okay, so you click either over here or here, and we're gonna add the link.
So Watches with a Woman or Quartz Crisis.
Yeah, or if you're watching it on Sierra's channel, then
be sure to check Quartz Crisis out.
Yeah, we're gonna also add kind of link either here or here, and you're gonna visit my my channel about vintage watches. So yours is about modern watches.
Mine's more modern watches and some things I find interesting.
Yeah,
I've done a couple. I've done one video on vintage watches. We'll see what all happens.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mine is about vintage watches. So yeah.
Okay.
So clear choice. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye.